Today we're joined by Terri Hawkes, who is well known for voicing Sailor Moon in the classic anime series. Thanks for joining us, Terri.
Thanks. Hi, how are you?
I'm very good. Nice to finally meet you. I'm glad we could finally make this happen. Is it okay if we dive into Sailor Moon a little bit?
It's fine because, as I said, Shannon would say, Sailor Moon was influential in her creation of Lady Ada's Secret Society. So go for it.
Awesome. Yeah, so I think your appearance on Sailor Moon was a little bit interesting because Tracy Moore, she voiced Serena at first and then had a kind of abrupt exit from the show, and you were brought on. Can you tell us about how you kind of got that role and what was it like for you at the beginning of the show?
Sure. So, yeah, you've done some research. So, yes, Tracy was the very initial English voice of Sailor Moon for a handful of episodes. I can't remember exactly how many, but left very early on. She was also the voice director at that time, had some creative differences with the producers, and yes, left abruptly. So, that led to me getting an abrupt phone call from my agent, Elaine Hammett at Oscars Abrams Zimmel, and she asked me to go in for an audition for this new show called Sailor Moon. And I said, okay, she explained it a little bit, and I said, okay, that sounds interesting. Well, I'm just about to I have two guests visiting from Calgary, two young fellas who I'm very close to, family friends. I said, I'm about to take them to the Hockey Hall of Fame. So just let me know when the audition is, and we'll work that out. And Elaine said, the audition is now. And I said, oh, really? I'm about to go to the Hockey Hall of Fame. I said, okay. So we went. So I took my young charges with me to the studio. They sat in the waiting room while I went into the audition. Um, Took a bit of time in the audition. They put me through the ringer, but it was so much fun. And I left and thought, well, that was really great. And took my young friends to the Hockey Hall of Fame. Got another phone call from Elaine Hammett short while later. She said, Terri, they want you to do the role of Sailor Moon. I said, that's fantastic. It sounds great. Thanks so much. Well, just let me know when we're starting. She said, now? So I said, you're kidding. I'm at the Hockey Hall of Fame. So I accommodated. I arranged to record. It was at least one episode that night. It might have been two, but it was fast and furious because they had to make up for some lost time with the departure of Tracy. So then I stuck with it for well over 2 years. Did three films, countless episodes, the first two seasons, and it was a wonderful ride. And I would have loved to have continued, but nature intervened, and I became pregnant with twins, and it was advisable for me to go on bed rest. So that was the choice I made. And once again, the producers found themselves not being able to stick to their timetable and wait for me to give birth. So they brought Linda Ballantyne into the fold, and she continued for a while longer. So, um, as I like to say, there's a big umbrella over Sailor Moon, and now there are redubs, so there's room for all of us. Uh, I still hold a very, very special place for Sailor Moon in my heart for those early years with the original cast. I think that the original actors, when we recorded that, I think it was, I've heard it said, and I agree that it was lightning in a bottle. These were some of the best voice actors in Canada. The Sailor Scouts, Luna Artemis, Tuxedo Mask, we're all Canadian. And we had worked a lot. We were all veterans, but we were new to this world of dubbing anime. So that was a really fun challenge for us. And we just jived. We just clicked. And I'm still so fond of all those people today. And I see some of them professionally and personally. And I'm really grateful to have been part of that original group. It was such a gift and just a really, really special, holds a very special place in my heart in terms of my professional experiences.
Oh, that's awesome. I recently did an interview with Phil Harnage, who was the head writer of Deke, and so he kind of gave me some of the inside scoop on how they operated and the fast and furious nature of it, and how they did a lot of the stuff on one take to get the most bang for their buck. I mean that totally tracks with what I understand about the company. Phil actually he did he didn't do the translations, but he did kind of edit the lines to kind of help sync up to the lip flaps. Do you remember working with him? Did you have any direct interaction with him, or did you just kind of get the script?
We really got the script, but I so appreciate what he would have done and his team because that's really tricky stuff. So first of all, you have to translate from Japanese, and then the video has been edited. The North American version of Deeks was edited visually, so you had to adjust to that. And then it's really, unless you've done it, you probably don't think about it. I don't mean you, I just mean people in general. I didn't ever think about it. But with original animation, we record the voices first, and then the animators draw the drawings to match the actor's vocalization. So if you have a vowel, an open sound, you would see the little character's mouth opening. If you have a consonant, you'd see it closing, and of course, it would close differently. If it was an or a t or a d, something like that. But when you do it in reverse, the actors have to match their vocalization to the picture on the screen. And that's really tricky, especially if you're trying to capture an emotion, you're trying to pursue an acting objective, you're trying to do all of your acting work at the same time as you're trying to synchronize your voice and your articulation to all of those tiny little movements on the screen and the text, which is going across the screen at the same time. It was called a rhythmoband at the time. So I think something that helped me and likely some of the other actors was I had a musical theater background. So knowing about tempo and timing and musicality was really helpful to me in this particular form, this particular medium. And yeah, that really helped a lot. And then you start to develop your own rhythm, but every episode, every line is a little bit different. That was part of the fun, actually. It was challenging, but it was very rewarding when it worked. It really worked, and it just felt great.
I'm curious about at that time when you were doing Sailor Moon, the term anime itself was really kind of just becoming popular in the lexicon. It was really a lot of times anime was referred to as Japanimation. Like, what was your kind of opinion of anime at the time? Were you even aware of anything in that realm?
I really wasn't. It was brand new to me. And I just kind of thought it was like any other sort of dubbing job, which I had directed before as a voice director and done a little bit myself. Um, but it's a whole new form. And so when I meet people who say, "Oh, Sailor Moon was so meaningful to me. It was my first anime," then I can say truthfully, as it was mine. It was my first anime too. And I've done a bit since. But yeah, it's a whole new form. And we had no idea how it would capture the imagination of such a widespread audience and the zeitgeist, not only because it was about girl superheroes, which was groundbreaking at the time for little young women, older girls to be able to band together and fight the negaverse. Um, but because, as you say, it was a new form that was very unfamiliar to us. So it was groundbreaking on a lot of levels, and we did not realize it at the time. It took 2 or 3 years to really recognize that this was something that was very special.
Absolutely. Do you have any favorite lines from the show or phrases that really stuck with you?
I have many, but when I'm asked at anime conventions, I usually sort of narrow it down to a few, and the one that is the most meaningful to me today is moon healing activation because I think we need a little healing in the world right now. So that one really resonates with me at the moment.
Yeah, I love that. That's a very good quote. Um, as far as the voice direction that you were given, was the Valley Girl tone something that you were told to kind of play up, or did that kind of emerge organically?
Um, I've never thought of it as Valley Girl, but I think I was living in LA most of the time. At the time, I was back and forth between LA and Toronto, so maybe subconsciously the Valley Girl kind of seeped in. Um, So Roland Parliament was the voice director for the majority of the episodes that I did. And I did a little voice directing, filled in for him occasionally. but I don't ever remember either of us using that term. And I don't really think of my acting in those terms generally, Tim. What I kind of approach a voice script the same way I would a theater script, a television script, a feature script. And I do my acting craft as I learned with Carol Rosenfeld and Uta Hagen at the HB Studio or the Meisner teachers that I studied with. And I break down the script and I determine, who the character is, what the character wants, what are the obstacles between the character and getting what she or they want. Um, and then I have various objectives and tactics within that. It's maybe a little too much information, but I break the script down
Mhm.
and I think about where I'm going as the character. And I try not to impose emotions or I try not to impose labels like, I don't know, Valley Girl or let's say Headmistress Hine. What could a label be? She's quite intransigent and very a bit stuffy and that kind of thing. But I don't think of it in those terms. That may be what emerges, but I think of it more from a very grassroots, grounded kind of way as to what the character's journey is and how I, as the character, want to get there. Does
Mhm.
that answer your question?
Yeah, and I think the way that you dissect the script, I gotta imagine that has to stem from your roots as a writer as well. I mean, kind of your writer mind probably is going into those scripts. And
Ye-
speaking on writing, uh, one of the lovely fans on Reddit asked if you could had a chance to write a new episode for Sailor Moon today. Do you have any idea what you might think it would be about?
Oh, I was recently in Charlotte, North Carolina, at an anime convention, and someone asked me um, a similar question, actually, what the theme might be about if I was to do another season, let's say, of Sailor Moon. And so I'm going to treat it the same way because I had to think about that for a minute or so. And then I thought, I think what would be a current theme today that would fit well with Sailor Moon would be a theme of inclusivity, a theme of just opening our arms, our hearts, our souls to others and to transcend differences, whether the differences be in terms of race, culture, sexual orientation, um, ability. There's so many things that divide us, and they seem to be very apparent in recent years. And I think Sailor Moon, one of the messages of Sailor Moon is that love transcends all, that togetherness is better than being apart, and that we all have our part in fighting the negaverse and working towards making our world a better place for all. And if there were to be another season of Sailor Moon and we could explore that more fully within the context of what's going on in the world today, I think that would be magical. And it would be great to have Naoko Takeuchi involved because, she's the master of storytelling. So
Yeah, I think that's right on. I mean, we're living in a very divided time, very partisan time. Everyone's kind of in their own camp, and a little bit of togetherness, I think, would do it all together. We're all stronger together. I think that's a wonderful message for a future episode. So I appreciate that very much.
thanks for the
Um,
question, Tim.
mhm. I was wondering if you could take us back to the time dubbing at the studio. In your mind, are there any funny inside jokes or moments that occurred during your dubbing sessions?
Um, well, everybody had a good sense of humor. So there were many jokes cracked along the way for sure. Uh, Roland, as I mentioned, Parliament, the director, and Sal, the engineer, and Nicole Twelt, the producer, I spent a lot of time with. And they would tease me, of course, about various things. One of the things would be that when it came time for Serena to eat snacks, because she's always eating after school, I would actually bring real food into the studio. So crackers make a good sound with a mic, but they also leave a bit of a mess for people to clean up after. So I'd always try to clean up after myself, but I'm sure that the cleaning staff at the end of the night would roll their eyes anytime that I'd been in the sound studio. Um, and then, of course, when the Sailor Scouts were all in the booth together, that was great fun. We just really enjoyed each other thoroughly. And as I said, they were just such a talent. They are such a talented group, and many of them continue in their work as voice actors today. And that was just joyous. And I can't pick one funny moment. There were many, many, many. Lots of laughter and joy and hard work. It was a great combination.
Sounds like you had such a wonderful time with that team. Like so many good memories. I'm gonna have to look up some of your panels because I'd love to hear some more about your time during these recordings. But I want to know, what was it like going back to the character and when you did like Sailor Moon R and some of the later properties with Sailor Moon after having returned to the character?
I don't think there's a huge amount of difference. What I do feel though is that thanks to Naoki Takeuchi, who created the series, that the character of Sailor Moon, Serena, grew in time. So I think there was a lot of personal growth, and we started to see that over time. So she started as a girl, and I think she finished the series as maybe not quite a young adult, but a much wiser, experienced, a bit calmer, a bit more realistic, uh, older girl, let's say. And I think I'm quite sure that the audience has noticed that too. In fact, I've had these kinds of conversations with fans of the show. So I'd say that's the difference, is just kind of incremental growth that you try to work in there a little bit over time.
Interesting. Uh, Also mentioning Sailor Moon R, I did have one of the Reddit users point out an interesting nexus. And I wanted to know, what was it like working with Wendy Lyon again on Sailor Moon R, the movie, after previously acting with her on Prom Night 2? Do you have any stories from either project you'd like to share?
You had to dig deep in the archives for that one, didn't you, Tim?
Uh-huh.
Wendy's a lovely person. There's nothing that stands out from the Sailor Moon recording. I spent a lot more time with her on the set of Prom Night 2, and she's a good, solid actor and a lovely human being. And that also was a bit of a first for us. It wasn't the first feature film I had done, and I'm sure it wasn't for them, but for most of us in our 20s, I guess at the time, they were kind of the first major roles that we had in a film project, a feature film project. So it was exciting and it was challenging, and we all worked really hard and we all wanted to do our best. And yeah, now that I think of it, it was another group of young people working together as a team. Now there were a couple of guys in that group, but mostly young women, girls. We were young women playing girls, and it was another wonderful experience. It was a very supportive atmosphere. Bruce Pittman being the director, and it was a really good experience. Yeah, I'm gonna say the biggest memory is just how well we all worked together and how much we wanted each other to succeed, and it was a team effort. Yeah.
Awesome. I love that. Um, Sounds like you've had some really great experiences. I want to see if we can move on to your convention experiences. I know you are a frequent convention guest. You meet a lot of fans there who appreciate your work. I was hoping maybe you could tell us about a unique or memorable item that someone has asked you to either autograph, or I know I'm sure sometimes you get gifts at the conventions. Is there any kind of item that stands out in your mind that you were presented with or autographed?
That's such an interesting question. I haven't been asked that before, I don't think. But yes. So usually, as you likely know, because it sounds as if you attend a good number of conventions yourself, people might sign prints that I show up with, or even more beautiful art pieces that some of the artists from Artist Alley have created uh, that honor Sailor Moon. And then there are these things called Funko Pops, little dolls and little cute little colorful boxes that you sign. And, sometimes people have jackets or purses, accessories, things like that. Um, I'm going to share two that really stand out. So, a year ago, I was going to a conference in New Jersey, a Collecticon conference, and we got some kind of a communication from a young man who asked if I could please sign his car.
Mm,
And he had outfitted a car with all things Sailor Moon in honor of a friend of his who had passed away and had been a huge Sailor Moon fan. This car was spectacular. We agreed, we went outside. I grabbed Veronica Taylor, who's become a friend. She does she was the first voice of Ash in Pokemon, but she also does one of the Sailor Scouts in a reboot. Anyway, Veronica was at this convention and said, Veronica, come with me. We're going out. We went with the lead team of Collecticon and a couple of other people, and we went out to see this car. And there were murals of Sailor Moon on the side. There were like I don't know what you call them. They're like headlights, but on the top of the car, and they
mm-hmm.
had images of Sailor Moon in them.
Cool.
Everything was Sailor Moon. I think the hubcaps, everything. And when you open the door, there was a big black dashboard, and this young man asked me to sign the dashboard. So I did. And it was really fun. And it was very meaningful because it was so meaningful to him. He had put so much heart and soul into creating this beautiful vehicle in honor of his friend and thus by extension in honor of Sailor Moon and the values and what those stories meant to her and to him. And so I was really honored to be asked to sign that. Um, that was really special. And the other one I'll share with you is I've I've had the great privilege of listening to some very meaningful stories from people who visit me or at these conventions or people I meet in other circumstances. And many people have shared how meaningful particular pieces of work that I've done have been to them, but in particular, Sailor Moon. That's what we're talking about right now. And people have shared that as a very young person, Sailor Moon was sometimes very instrumental in helping them through a tough time at home. For example, their parents were divorcing and they'd rush home from school and find a quiet place to watch Sailor Moon, and it kind of gave them hope and helped them think about value systems and gave them, I've heard more than once, a safe space. And that's very, very meaningful to hear. I've heard other people say that the implication of a same-sex relationship in Sailor Moon gave them the courage to come out.
Mm,
And I've heard others say that they struggled with mental health issues and may even have been suicidal at one time, and they credit the stories in Sailor Moon with being a part of their recovery. So I don't take credit for any of that, as I'll say again and again, Naoko Takeuchi created this. It was her vision, but I feel really lucky to have been a part of the team that brought that to life. So I received one of those stories, a similar story, at one of my very first conventions in Florida a decade or so ago. And the person told me the story of how meaningful Sailor Moon had been to him. And then he pushed up his sleeve and he had a full arm with a Sailor Moon tattoo. And he said, "And so now would you mind signing right here?" Like
awesome.
on his tattoo. So, right. I said, "On your arm?" He said, "Yeah, yeah, on my arm." So those are two very memorable moments that have not been repeated since. I've not yet seen another Sailor Moon car, and I have not since been asked to sign anybody's arm a second time, but I will remember those instances very fondly for many, many years.
Do you know if that gentleman got his arm inked?
I don't know. I didn't know anything about tattoos at the time. I've actually wondered that since,
Mhm.
but I don't know. Maybe he'll show up wherever you are, wherever you are. Come say hi.
Yeah, I mean, you go to a number of cons, so you might have seen it, but it's definitely becoming a trend where people do get their body signed and they'll have on-site tattoo artists there. So people will just go down the hall and get the autograph permanently tattooed on their
Okay. Well,
body.
maybe he did that. He was
Yeah.
kind of ahead of the curve.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I gotta say that the first story about the car, I mean, I think that's quite significant. It was very nice of you and Veronica to go and do that. I mean, especially given the time constraints at a convention, you don't have a lot of time there, and you know, time away from your table means time not making money. So I think it speaks a lot that both of you took the time to go out to the parking lot, sign this young man's car, and do that for him. I think that was a very kind gesture, and I guarantee you he appreciated that so much. I think that speaks very well about both of you guys and how much you guys care about your fans. So that's
Wow, that's really nice of you to say. And I can say with certainty that Veronica shares um, a view with me that, yeah, meeting people who our work has touched in some way is really, really meaningful to us, to her for sure, for me for sure. And so I didn't actually think of that as a sacrifice. I really didn't. It was just a wonderful opportunity. But
Mhm.
thank you for your kind words.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you can't tell us about all the stuff you have upcoming, but is there any convention appearances that you do have announced at this point that we can look forward to?
Yeah, so next week is kind of a busy week. I'm going to be at Fan Expo in Toronto along with the last group, the Lady Ada's Secret Society group. So we have a panel. We get to talk about season 2 of Lady Ada's Secret Society. And I will also have a table there as Sailor Moon, just for Thursday and Friday, though, because I had a previous commitment for Saturday and Sunday in Kansas City. So
Mm.
I will be the next week in Toronto. Thursday, Friday at Fan Expo, and then Kansas City with Collecticon Saturday and Sunday. And then in September, I will be in Brooklyn with a sounds like a really sweet convention called Magical Girls. And I should check my schedule. I think there's another one coming up, Tim. I'd be happy to share it, but I have to look it up because it's all becoming a blur. Of course, I'm at a Hot Springs convention in Arkansas, along with 2 other Sailor Moon alumni, Ron Rubin, who plays Artemis, and Susan Roman, Sailor Jupiter from the original cast, both of them. And the three of us are going to be in Arkansas. And when is that? That's the 20th and 21st of September. And then I'll be in Brooklyn on the 27th of September. And then there's more in October, November, December. But anyway, I'll leave it at that. And I appreciate you asking.
Yeah, that's awesome. You must have had so many opportunities to explore the country thanks to being a guest at these cons. I mean, that's wonderful.
It is. It's a really great opportunity. I'm very grateful.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. I had a ton of fun learning about your experience, both on Lady Ada's Secret Society and as a voice actor for Sailor Moon. It's been a real delight. I don't know if you noticed, but I did wear my Sailor Moon shirt today.
Oh, okay. You know what? I couldn't see Sailor Moon from this angle. It looks
Yeah,
very
yeah,
tropical. But
yes,
yes, now I
it
can see it.
is.
Oh, that's so cute. That's so great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for taking the
Mhm.
time to chat. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, Tim.
Absolutely. And if you, since you said you're doing Fan Expo, we do have a Fan Expo up in Dallas. It'd be wonderful to have you as a guest there if you can ever come down. I know they do have a smaller related con, I think also in October, Fan Fest, I believe it's called. But yeah, it'd be wonderful to see you anywhere in Texas, and hopefully I'll get a chance to see you in person soon.
Love that. Well, if you have a particular convention in mind, it never hurts to contact the organizers and suggest who you'd like to attend. So, yeah, those all sound great. So, thank you for thinking of me.
Thank you, Terry. Have a nice day.
All right, you too. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.